A Russian fuel tanker carrying nearly 270,000 barrels of diesel to Cuba has stalled in the Atlantic, worsening the island's worst fuel crisis in decades. Blackouts are spreading, transport systems are collapsing, and fuel shortages are crippling daily life. But the crisis is now turning geopolitical, with Russia trying to keep Havana afloat, while Washington ramps up pressure on the communist island. The United States has expanded sanctions on Cuba, while Secretary of State Marco Rubio rejected claims of an American blockade. Rubio instead blamed Cuba's communist leadership for the island's economic collapse, saying the regime's incompetence is driving the crisis.
There's no oil blockade on Cuba per se. Here's what's happening with Cuba, okay? Cuba used to get free oil from Venezuela. Used to give them a bunch of free oil. They would take like 60% of that oil and resell it for cash. It wouldn't even go to benefit the people. So the only blockade that's happened is the Cubans have decided, the Venezuelans have decided, we're not giving you free oil anymore. And you can only imagine nowadays, the way oil prices are, no one's giving away free oil, much less to a failed regime. So the problem with Cuba is worse, okay? Their economic model doesn't work. And the people who are in charge can't fix it. And the reason that I can't fix it is not just because they're communists, that's bad enough, but they're incompetent communists. The only thing worse than a communist is an incompetent one. And that's what, so incompetent communists run that country. They don't know how to fix it. They really don't. And we have 90 miles from our shores, a failed state that also happens to be friendly territory for some of our adversaries. So it's an unacceptable status quo, and we'll be addressing it, but not today. Okay.
Despite Washington denying a blockade, fears of sanctions and maritime pressure have reportedly disrupted fuel deliveries to Cuba. Only one Russian tanker is believed to have reached the island this year. The standoff is now evolving into a strategic test between Moscow and Washington in the Caribbean, reviving memories of Cold War confrontation near American shores. China has now openly backed Cuba against the United States. Beijing accused Washington of using sanctions and coercion to violate Cuba's sovereignty and worsen humanitarian suffering on the island. China also warned the United States against interfering in Cuba's internal affairs, signaling growing alignment between Beijing, Moscow, and Havana.
The cooperation between China and Cuba is bright and clear. Fabricating excuses, spreading rumors, and smearing cannot be used as a reason for the United States' brutal blockade and illegal sanctions against Cuba, nor can it cover up the fact that the United States has seriously violated Cuba's right to survival and development and violated the basic norms of international relations. China will firmly support Cuba in safeguarding its sovereignty and security and urge the United States to immediately cease its blockade, sanctions, and any form of coercion and pressure against Cuba.
Tensions intensified after Marco Rubio was photographed at U.S. Southern Command, standing in front of a massive map of Cuba. The image triggered speculation online about Washington's intentions toward Havana at a time when Russia is shipping fuel to the island and China is publicly attacking U.S. sanctions policy. Rubio later dismissed the controversy, saying the photo had no deeper meaning.
Happened to be a map of Cuba, and I said it'd be good if we took a picture in front of that map because it's like the closest thing in Southcom to the United States. So there it is. We have maps of other countries.
Cuba's fuel crisis is now becoming part of a much larger geopolitical battle. Russia is trying to sustain its ally. China is openly challenging Washington's sanctions strategy, and the United States is tightening pressure on Havana. As tensions rise from Eastern Europe to the Caribbean, Cold War-style rivalries are rapidly returning to America's doorsteps.